Nigerian Stock Exchange, in partnership with Bloomberg, hosted the second edition of the CEOs Roundtable, a platform designed to discuss the business, market, and economic issues in the country. Focusing on the theme Navigating the Changing Business Landscape in Nigeria, the event brought together business leaders, financial analysts, capital market stakeholders, and economists. In his opening remarks, the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Oscar Onyema, shared the aim and objective of the forum.
Let me welcome you to the Nigerian Stock Exchange BLOOMBERG CEO Roundtable. Today's event marks the second edition of the CEO Roundtable, an interactive forum jointly organized by the Nigerian Stock Exchange and Bloomberg to bring together Nigeria's leading firms in a discussion to proffer solutions to topical issues impacting different sectors of the Nigerian economy. Building on the success of last year's event, we are gathered here today to discuss yet another set of timely and relevant issues. Since June of 2014, the Nigerian economy has experienced strong headwinds resulting from one, fall in global crude oil and commodity prices, two, uncertainty around the Nigerian presidential election cycle and resultant policy direction, and three, high exchange rate volatility.
Panelists discussed the implications for the economy and also proffered solutions on the way forward.
Every sector in the economy, we're beginning to feel the pinch. The first quarter was relatively good for us, but in the last two quarters, like every other sector of the economy, we've seen the pinch. I don't think any sector is isolated from what we have in. And I think this started, like 2 years ago, not a year ago. When you have an oil boom, you have a foreign capital investment, and you have unrestrained lending, you create what we have, which is temporary consumption and a short burst of investment. That is the foundation of the problem we're facing today. Now that the oil is not as valuable as it used to be, now that investment is drying up, foreign investment, what do we need to do? That's probably the focus. And I'm just going to give an example. If you're running the business, a company, and you're having difficulties, you restructure. How do you restructure? Either by looking for more money to sustain your business, by looking for new markets, new products to sell, or new geography to sell. In our own case, we're so much dependent on one product, which is oil. But the best buy date for the oil is over. So we need to figure out to diversify the economy and find other things we need to sell.
The challenge I have as a business, Paul, to answer your question is I don't have currently, I will look at it from demand side and the supply side. I don't have a demand problem because we have, since the challenges that Ebola gave us, we have had to rethink the way we run our business. And actually this is in a crisis you learn wonderful things. So the adjustments that we made in our business from then has helped us to sustain growth. So we're having, on the top line, up to now, probably one of the best years we've had. The challenge is, how do you satisfy demand when you have supply challenges? And supply challenges means no gas, infrastructure challenges, crime increasing, no forex. So the focus sometimes is really not about getting to satisfy consumer growth, because the consumer growth is there if you are able to value price and if you are there to offer value. And I think this concept, to be honest, that consumers in Nigeria have for a long time not been given value, but they've been charged high prices.
$30 billion is about roughly what our budget is. GDP is about $400 billion. That means the government is actually a tiny section of the entire economy. When you think also about it, about 10% of our GDP is oil and gas. So the question is, there's a saying that says, heaven helps those who help themselves. The government can say, I want to go and borrow money from Eurobond or international markets. But if I were the one, let's assume you're talking to somebody that's struggling and they need money. but they're sitting on a lot of assets and saying, oh, I don't want to sell my assets. I want to keep on hold on to all my assets, and I just want you to borrow me money. Why would I keep on borrowing you money if you have assets that you can sell part of it to raise money? Now, government have joint ventures that you can sell part of the joint ventures and raise about $10 billion. If the government raises $10 billion currently and brings it into the economy, that will help the whole issue that we have about supply of FX or no supply of FX. And if you do that, that's the first step towards saying, okay, we realize that we're struggling and we need to develop. And that money that's coming in should be targeted towards infrastructure development, because infrastructure development has multiplier effects on the whole economy. When you're talking about farming, for example, farming is what the people in the village do. They go, they farm small portion, they can't really do large-scale farming. When you do agro, which you can export, you need power and you need transportation. Because if you don't have power, you can't process, you can't store, and if you don't have transportation, you can't get them to where you can export them. That's on one side of the thing. And if you can get the infrastructure in place, then you can get agro business going. That's one. On the second side, we're focusing on mining. We've been hearing talks about mining. The reason why there's no mining, people think is because we don't have proper policies in place for mining. We do have policies in place for mining. It's actually very robust. The reason why mining doesn't work is without transportation, you cannot do mining. Because how would you get iron ore from middle of Nigeria to the port on trucks? It's not possible. You need rail. You need proper transportation. So if the government takes the step to say, okay, let's sell part of our assets that we own and raise money and then find multiplier effects. So the government shouldn't be thinking that we should spend all the money to develop infrastructure. Infrastructure is not something that you develop by your own money alone. What you do is put in some equity, small equity, maybe 25%, to show that the government is committed to this infrastructure. And if it's bankable, it's something that's commercial, you can get other people to come and fund it and provide the additional capital that you need to develop it. That means you have to have guarantee structures in place. And if you have guarantee structures in place, you can turn 20 or $10 billion into $100 billion of economic development or infrastructure development. And that's where we think the government needs to focus and try and work our way out of it. It's not something that will happen overnight. It's something that's gradual, but if you take the first step to the right direction, then you can ease up on the tension that we have currently.
Also, there was a thorough assessment of the economic management style of the current administration.
Overall, how would you sort of rate this government so far in terms of its macroeconomic policies?
I would say that has been pretty poor, unfortunately. I mean, I put out an article last summer after the elections, which, of course, was a milestone elections for Nigeria, the first democratic transition of power. And of course, that means that it's a milestone not for Nigeria, not only for Nigeria, but for all of Africa. But I did highlight some of the difficulties with the ACM being a relatively new party, and the sort of combination of interests. And I do think that part of the problem is, money is how you make things, the cogwheels turn. It's kind of what lubricates the cogwheels in Nigeria and also in the politics. And without that, things kind of come to a bit of a standstill. And I also think, that's some of the risk, some of the mistakes. My interpretation of the presidency is that they do just send orders down the line as a general, as the president was previously, and expect everything that to be followed without anyone down the line, down this sort of line of command, having any agency. And of course, that's not how things work outside of the army. And I think that's, maybe not even in the army in the case of Nigeria, but I think that is maybe part of the problem, that you need to get these people that obviously have some kind of agency in how things work, and to get them on board and to work and maybe take a bit of a long-term perspective rather than expecting a quick payout.
The CEO of NSE, Mr. Ogunsanya, speaks further on the roundtable and the recession.
From today's discussions, there were so many nuggets of information, starting from the need to find new ways. The example was given about the telecom sector, where instead of going out and building hundreds of thousands and millions of new lines, we leapfrogged and started using cell phones. And that could be applied in the way we roll out infrastructure, for example. So if you look at power, significant discussions and a good breakdown of the value chain and where the dislocations are at every point and what needs to be done to unlock. I did not know that we had 15,000 megawatts of potential power that can be distributed, and we're only able to distribute up to 4,000. So a lot of nuggets of information that, from the way we got significant understanding of how manufacturers are reacting to the current shocks, to what is going on in the agriculture sector, to an international view and perspective of what is going on in our macroeconomy, and great suggestions on how to solve some of these problems. So I think that articulating them in a well-written white paper and making them available to policymakers would be something that we'll be working on. In a recession, you have shrinkage in GDP and, after 2 quarters. The data that was released today by the Bureau of Statistics just confirms what a lot of people already know, because we're seeing it in our pockets, we're seeing it in prices of goods and services. For us, in the marketplace, it just represents another data point that allows investors to make decisions. And depending on how you view what your expectations are with regards to GDP, with regards to inflation and the rest of it, you will take investment decisions. Some people will see it as an opportunity. Some people will see it as a challenge and therefore pull back. But at the end of the day, that is what makes for an efficient market. Different views, acting with full information that is available out there to drive market activity.
Nigeria's slip into a recession is an opportunity for innovative ideas and practical solutions to the nation's perennial economic challenges. It is expected that after the discourse, the Nigerian Stock Exchange and Bloomberg will work together to articulate key points for a white paper to the relevant policymakers, as promised.